Is tithing still relevant? Bible facts you may not know. Tithing. Is it just an old rule from the Old Testament? Or is it a principle that is still relevant for Christians today? In this video, we will take a deep dive into why tithing is still important today, from the Bible and the writings of God's servant, Ellen G. White. The story of tithing begins before the Mosaic Law. In Genesis 14:20, Abraham gives a tenth to Melchizedek, the priest of the Most High God. This is not just an ordinary act, but an acknowledgement that everything comes from God. This action did not stop with Abraham. Jacob, Abraham's grandson, made the same commitment. In Genesis 28 verses 20 to 22, Jacob promised God, "Of all that you have given me, I will give a tenth to you." This principle shows how tithing is a way to depend on God and acknowledge that He is the source of all blessings. When the law of Moses was given, tithing became part of the life of the Israelites. In Numbers 18:21, God established tithing as a wage for the Levites who served in the temple. To the sons of Levi, behold, I have given every tithe as an inheritance for their service which they have rendered. But tithing did more than just support the Levites. In Deuteronomy 14 verse 23, tithing is a reminder for God's people to always depend on Him, so that you may learn to fear the Lord your God always. By bringing their first fruits to God, the Israelites were reminded that all things come from God. This principle remains relevant for us today. Servant of God Ellen G. White wrote, "The system of tithes and offerings was intended to impress the minds of men with a great truth that God is the source of every blessing to His creatures." Patriarchs and Prophets, page 525. Some people ask, is tithing still valid in the New Testament? The answer is yes. Jesus Himself confirmed it in Matthew 23:23. "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you pay tithe of mint, anise, and cumin, and have neglected the weightier matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faith. These you must do, but not neglect the rest." Jesus never abolished tithing. Instead, He asked us to continue to do so while practicing the values of justice and mercy. The Apostle Paul also emphasized the principle of supporting God's ministry. In 1 Corinthians 9, verses 13 and 14, Paul says, "Those who serve in the sanctuary receive their living from the sanctuary. So the Lord has ordained that those who preach the gospel should live by the gospel." Servant of God Ellen G. White wrote, "Jesus did not condemn the tithing system. He declared that it was to be carefully kept." The Desire of Ages, page 616. In the Old Testament, tithes were given to the Levites. However, before that time, Abraham gave tithes to Melchizedek, the priest of God. The principle is that tithes are given to those who serve God's people in a spiritual capacity. In today's world, tithes are given to the church as a means to support God's ministry. The true church chosen by God uses tithes to support global missions and sustain the work of the gospel. Servant of God Ellen G. White wrote, "The tithes are to be used for no other purpose than to sustain the ministers whom the Lord has appointed to do His work." Counsels on Stewardship, page 73. Tithing is a reminder to us that everything comes from God. It is a spiritual exercise in continuing to depend on Him. Ellen G. White wrote, "The tithe is a reminder that all we have belongs to God." Education, page 138. In a sinful world, institutions like tithing help us stay close to God and remind us that Jesus is our shepherd. So is tithing still valid? The answer is clear, yes. It is a divine institution that transcends time, reminding us of God's love and care. Are you ready to give your life to God through tithing? Come, do this as a form of our loyalty to Him. Thank you for watching. If you find this video helpful, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with your friends. Let's continue to live faithfully to God.